Welcome to the Foster Together Network Spring Forward Series, Self-Care 102, Setting Boundaries Session. My name is Kim Renner. I'm a Deputy Director with Department of Children and Family Services, and I am a co-lead for the Foster Together Network's Data Work Group. The Foster Together Network is a collaborative of public and private partners committed to helping recruit and retain resource families. A network bridges many different organizations such as DCFS, Probation, Department of Mental Health, many community leaders, faith leaders, parents, and of course our funding community that helps to make this happen. Self-care has always been crucial in our field, but in the past year, it's certainly put this importance to new heights and has really challenged all of us in many ways, both personally and professionally. At this point, we heard you loud and clear. Our Self-Care 101 session at our fall conference made such a great space and really helped to satiate some of those that were really needing self-care opportunities. And at this point, we were thrilled to jump at the opportunity to coordinate a part 2, Self-Care 102, that we're here today for. We're so excited and grateful to all of our partners, specifically UCLA, who sponsored Dr. Daisy Gomez to help lead us today. We're also grateful to our general Foster Together Network funders, the Ralph M. Parsons Foundation, the Weingart Foundation, the Pritzker Foster Care Initiative, and of course the Keck Foundation for all of their sponsorship as the backbone to the Big Orange Splat, who's really helping to produce this series and this event. And a special shout out to Keila Burton for her seamless leadership in the production of this event. So now, on to the event. I'd like to introduce Dr. Daisy Gomez, as she led our workshop as Self-Care 101. Self-Care 102 is highly requested as a follow-up. It really gave us such a really great, important, and we certainly know that you're all here to see her speak today. As most of you know, she's a trainer with the UCLA DMH Prevention Center of Excellence. Daily is a restorative practitioner with specialization in working with very unique populations. And we're so pleased to have her with us today. Daisy, take it away.
Good morning, everyone. Hope all of you are having a wonderful Tuesday, or as I would like to call it, Taco Tuesday, because somehow I'm motivated by food. So I hope everyone has your nourishment, whether that be water, tea, coffee. This session is going to hopefully add to some of the, self-care skills that we talked about a few months ago. But not only that, but my hope is to provide you with a space where you feel nourished, appreciated, and, we together can really highlight the importance of feeling good in effort to keep doing what we do. I think, thank you, Ms. Renner, for really highlighting how difficult it is to maintain such, focus on what it is to take care of ourselves, especially when we are often taking care of others. So today is going to be a little bit of recap from what we had in 101. For many of you, I see a lot of familiar names. Welcome back. I hope you enjoy the additions to this training. For all of you who are new, welcome, and you won't miss a thing because it's an incorporation of some of the concepts we've talked about that people have found meaningful and helpful, and adding to more of the in-depth things that we can do to best support, the most important relationship we have, and that is a relationship with ourselves. So taking care of you. So, even though we're going to talk about some, topics that are emotion provoking, I really want to honor, how you're feeling. So at any point in time, if you are aware of any reactions to the topics we're talking about, please take a break. Go grab some water, you can hear us in the background. Go to your happy place, because one thing that we know is that we best learn when we are in a calm, cool, collective state of being. So remember that we are in this together. If you need to come back to this, session as a recording, just please know that it's about noticing what's happening and knowing how to best support ourselves in the moment. So with that said, I think all of you already know who your speaker is today. And my name is Daisy Gomez, and I, have been honored to be asked back to, guide us all through a much needed reminder of what it is to maintain or regain our well-being after such an incredible year of ups and downs and rounds. So I am very humbled to be here and so appreciative of all the love that I've received from many of you on and off training sessions. So today, I'm sure all of you already know the get down for virtual trainings. I will be asking for some engagement just because it just makes it so much fulfilling for me. So I will be asking some prompts in the chat. At any point in time, you want to say something, share, with us, your colleagues, some wisdom or just something that you would like to provide in the space, go ahead and raise your hand and unmute or share it in the chat. This is our space. This is a time for us to really connect and really, know who our partners in this, in this field are, and, just embrace our network, because we all need each other, especially when times are hard. So the goals for today, we are going to understand stress and its impact on people and systems. We're going to learn to mitigate some of that impact and through healthy boundaries. Boundaries is one of those things that many of us know, but it's hard to put in place. It's hard to actually do the practice of maintaining those boundaries. We're also going to explore strategies to maintain our well-being, especially, through times that are tough. And that's when we most feel alone and overwhelmed. And we are going to do this by we're starting to create our own personal resilience toolkit, which is unique for every single one of us. So, it's very important that we know what we already have in our toolbox, and also with the things that we can learn from one another to just make that toolbox way more robust and beneficial for us in the long run. So okay. Technology. So today I really want to get us started with a little pop quiz. So if you would please allow me some insight into your thought process. So today I really want to pose this question: what makes someone healthy? And these are stats from LA County. So this is maybe a few years, I think it's 2017. I will give that year for you. But we have come to know health and what is healthy through a lot of through a lot of topics or a lot of factors. So I would like to pose this question: what do you think most contributes to a person's length and quality of life? So in the chat, if you could just do health behaviors, access to healthcare, socioeconomic factors, or physical factors as the most, the one that contributes the most to a person's length and quality of life. So when we talk about health behaviors, we're talking about the things we eat, how much exercise we do, access to healthcare, do we have access when we need them, socioeconomic factors, education, job, support, and safety and community, and physical factors like air quality, housing, transportation. Okay, socioeconomic factors, health factors. Okay. health behaviors, good mental health, socioeconomic factors. Okay, I see a trend. Health behaviors, mental health, all mentioned. Staying positive and reaching out for support, social behaviors, health behaviors, balancing between work, family, personal space. Oh, that is a big one. Self-care, extracurricular activities, mental health, socioeconomic, health behaviors. Okay, so far I think I see a tie between social factors and health behaviors. Okay, all the above, social factors and economic factors, if I had to choose one, because it affects all of the others. Very good observation. Well, yes, definitely. And yes, it seems to have been a tie between health behaviors and socioeconomic factors. Now, here for the big reveal, we have found that social and economic factors are what most contributes to a person's length and quality of life. And as it was mentioned in the chat, social and economic factors really do play a role, and all the other contributes to all of the other factors. And if we break it down, when we talk about socioeconomic factors, we're talking about the resource that we have growing up that leads us into the type of education that we have. That education will lead us to the type of employment that we have, which then leads us to the level of income that we're able to earn, which then contributes to the amount of time that we have for family and social support. And all of this is wrapped around that community safety that we might have. So definitely, all of you would write on. And yes, it does affect a lot of the other factors, being that if our social and economic factors are not fulfilling our needs, then our health behaviors suffer. Then we might not have insurance or might not know when to attend or seek medical or health care. And the physical factors, being only 10%, also affect the way in which we live, but not at the, not as great as all these social factors in the way we interact with one another. And it all comes back to, where we start our journey. And a lot of those things we don't have control over. And it's part of the reason why we're talking about this maintaining or regaining well-being, because we know that some of these things we have no control over, but it impacts us so greatly. That's why we have to do what we can to kind of rebalance some of these things that have just been unbalanced. And we know that current times are just aggravating the need for us to take a moment and reflect on what is and how we can improve our experience. We are under high stress, high uncertainty of what is next, what's to follow. We have lost, we have lost a lot in regards to what is normal and how we connect socially. So it's no surprise that if you are like me or many other people, you might notice a fluctuation in your mood, in your energy, in your feelings. So if any of these, seem, as though it's something that is affecting you, you're not alone, because this is actually what we expect when we're going through something so difficult, and not only with the pandemic, but through our, social and racial tensions, and just having everything all at one time can lead to many, many different feelings for many, many different people. So just remember that you're not alone. What we're experiencing is, this thing called stress and trauma. And stress is an indication that your brain is doing exactly what it's meant to do, which means it's staying, vigilant to things that impact your well-being. Therefore, it kicks into gear the fight, flight, or freeze response, which is very needed in times of, survival, in times of you need to, fight or freeze. However, with that constant activation of our system, we begin to suffer the consequences of, if imagine putting a stove on, you put some hot oil, or you put some oil, you put the stove on, the oil begins to heat up. Well, that is very needed if you're gonna put some veggies or, cook something up. However, if you just turn it on and you leave it on for a long period of time, and there's nothing to be put in that pan, then what we're gonna experience is a smoky kitchen, some burnt oil, and probably a very messy pan. Well, there is no coincidence that when we activate our fight, flight, or freeze response, and that becomes a norm, imagine how much spillage, how much burnt oil we are, creating, because we do not need it, but that is what is needed when we are under high stress. However, because these, times are very uncertain, that activation is prolonged, and therefore we suffer the consequences of having these, turn into trauma, into toxic stress. And then we have seen a lot of, impact from vicarious trauma, meaning that things might not be happening directly to us, but we are seeing it in the news. We are hearing it in the radio. We are just being, exposed to so many other people suffering, and that, can impact us. We are also working directly with individuals that are experiencing high levels of stress and high levels of trauma. And even though not everyone suffers from secondary traumatic stress, everyone is exposed. And we're going to, we're going to talk about ways in which to mitigate all of these types of stressors and levels of stress and trauma. And, I just want to say that all of these, we are able to heal from all of these. The thing is being aware that they're there, attending at the moment that we notice it, and not letting it build because we know we can, or because we know we're strong enough. We are amazing, human beings, in that we are so resilient that we are going to adapt to anything. We're going to continue to persevere. But just because we become accustomed or used to a certain condition doesn't mean it's right. And what happens with this prolonged, activation of our superpowers is that we might start feeling this compassion fatigue, this phenomenon that is, it's the feeling that we care. We are all caring, especially here in this session, we are all caring human beings. However, it comes a time when, if we have given so much and taken back for ourselves so little, we are unable to care. It's not that we don't want to care, it's just that we are physically, emotionally, spiritually unable to care. And which leads us to moral distress, when we want to do more, but we just don't have it in us to take that step, because we are so burnt out. We are literally burning on both ends. And one of the things about burnout is that it's much, much easier to, catch it while we notice we're going that way than it is to recover once we are there in the pit of darkness, feeling totally overwhelmed. And then not only that, feeling overwhelmed by the situations, but then we have this internal talk, these internal cognitive distortions that just kind of make this experience in the situation so much more difficult to overcome. And here we're going to look at the actual physiological response that our body, has as clues to let us know that we are being impacted by the stress. So, we see the pupils expand. We start to breathe fast and hollow. Our breathing is not deep and robust, but it's very shallow. It's very, it's short breath, which again leads to shorter breath, which leads to headaches. Our heart pumps faster than normal, meaning that, okay, we are fully activated in this fight, flight, or freeze, and there is energy building up. There has to go somewhere. And one of the things that shuts down is our, digestive system, because when we were, when our brain, wired these pathways for survival, one of the things that you didn't have to do immediately if you're running from a bear or being chased by a dangerous animal, running for your life, was that you didn't have to go to the bathroom. At that moment in time, you could hold it, you will survive. However, this, pattern of shutting down what's not essential has continued to be part of our response. And therefore, many of us who are under a lot of stress might not have regular bowel movements, might have very different changes in appetite depending on our mood. We might eat our favorite food and then have it, just feel horrible inside because, again, this inactive gut has built up a lot of acids, a lot of toxicity that naturally occurs in our body when it shuts down and it has been dormant. So we have to pay attention to these clues because our body is constantly telling us when something is the matter. And we also have those headaches, right? Who here doesn't have headaches? And this is another, indication that, whoa, maybe I should take a pause. Maybe I should, take a couple of deep breaths, have some water, and ask myself, what do I need? What's happening? What do I need right now? We also see this enhanced sweating. I don't know if that has ever happened to you, but I always make a joke that whenever I train, and I'm doing it from my home, but I still wear black. Why? Because even though that I love training and I've done this for many, many years, I still have that stress of wanting to do a good job and, being, excited. Therefore, I still sweat. So I wear black so you can't see. But the thing is that when in a prolonged state of stress, we sweat through every pore in our body. So if you ever get home and then notice that, whoa, I sweat through everywhere. Again, remember that we sweat when our stress is activated. And then we get the shakes. I don't know if you've ever noticed or try to put your hands like this and you're under a lot of stress, your hands will shake because there's so much buildup in your body, sweaty palms. So again, we want the opposite. We want to be able to calm our parasympathetic nervous system, and we want to be able to reclaim our state of peace. And that means that we are, looking for our pupils to shrink, to take slower, deeper breaths, allow for our heart rate to slow down to its normal state. And we want to have healthy gut activity because we want to eat and we want to feel good while doing it. And, at the end of the day, one of the things that I think is more telling of any one of these is the ability that we have to go so long, so far without attending to ourselves. And it has been a habit. It is a habit that is very true here in the United States because of our culture. We are go, 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 do. And it could feel even a little selfish to say, no, I'm going to take a break. I'm going to do me. And let me tell you, it's not selfish at all. It's actually self love. And part of the self love that I want all of us to reflect on is I want to bring you back to your why. Many of us have, started this journey years ago. Some of us might just have started, but we had an initial reason, something that fueled our passion. And that is our why. So I want you to, reflect on this question. What brought you to this work, to this career, to this place, to this moment in time? And if you feel comfortable sharing in the chat, I would love to hear parts of your journey and how and what has brought you to this field. And also, if you feel comfortable, you can also unmute and share with us what is your why and what has brought you so far. To be able to help children that have been wrong. Thank you. Personal experience. Mm-hmm. Thank you for sharing. Many of us have so many deep rooted whys of what has brought us here, what motivates us, what feeds our passion, and what happens when we let stress, the overactivation of stress and trauma, be part of our daily lives is that we begin to forget our why. Our why gets buried underneath all of these stressors and all of these worries. And it's so important to keep track of our why, hold it near and dear to us, because that is ultimately our fuel to protect ourselves from harm. And as I see here, I see so many personal reasons for this. And when we are able to bring that personal passion, I mean, it can move mountains. It can really make a difference, not only in your lives, but in the lives that you touch and the people that you come across with. We have a lot of people who are in it to help and fulfill the healing, start the healing process for so many people who might not have had it. And, healing happens, in both directions. And it's so, it's so powerful when we're able to be there and feel it and see it. I love working with this population to be able to show kids that there are people that have patience and willing not to give up on them. Yes, thank you. It's so, it's so meaningful when you're able to change the way in which you make others people feel. And that in turn makes us feel great. And it's this, magical thing of the give and take. And I think that is so important that we remember this. And thank you. My why is that I had a rough childhood, and 10 years ago I wanted to be loved and help children and youth through this tough time. I love the kids I work with and for the place for those without families that will love them and keep them, help them thrive. That is my passion. And thank you for sharing that, to support mhm, the desire to make change. hmm Yeah. And it's not a and it's not a easy path. It's not an easy journey by all means. Therefore, it really takes strength and determination to be in spaces like this, to do what you do. So imagine how important it is for you to keep doing it. It's not something that a lot of people can really maintain, to provide a window of opportunity for our youth and children who maybe feel as they don't have one. Power to empower others, helping families. There isn't any handbook. You are so right on that. There's no handbook on babies. There is no handbook on life, you know. Yeah, thank you for sharing. For the love of children and empathy for how difficult parenting can be. Yes, so very true. Mhm. To heal humanity by empowering and educating not only our children and families, but our community partners. Thank you. Thank you. I know we're noticing so many connections among us, and I love that because that is what it's all about. Mhm. That is what it's all about. We are here to maintain this lifeline, to increase it, to really expand, so that we can continue to do what we do. Thank you, all of you, for sharing such, deep and personal reasons for why you're on this path and why you have joined today. It really does make so much when we're able to leave a personal imprint in service of others. And that is such a beautiful way to transition into, into how we continue to do that, by remembering that the person who is on this journey is you. And the person that is making all of those differences, leaving imprints that people will never forget, changing the trajectory of people's lives with what you do, with what you say, with your presence. But in order to continue to do that, we have to maintain and cultivate our well being, and there is this metaphor of, putting your oxygen mask first before attaining to anyone. And I think now more than ever, we know about masks. Putting your mask on to be of safety and to continue to be of service for everyone. So definitely self-preservation is no selfish act. It is a necessity for us to continue to do what we do. So first, we're going to break it down on how do we do this? How do I continue to hold on to my why while I'm having all these other feelings, all these other emotions that just come at me at one time, all at one time? So we first have to talk, start to name it to tame it. And I am a big fan of Dr. Dan Siegel. And if you have been in other workshops with me, you know that I'm going to quote him a lot. But I love Dan Siegel because, he puts things into such concrete ways to understand. And one of the things about emotional regulation is that in order for us to be able to manage these emotions, we have to be aware that they're there. And we're going to talk about steps to do that. And it's all for the benefit of having a greater positive impact, not only with ourselves, but with those around us, because communication is key. So we want to be able to have great communication with ourselves, first and foremost, because it starts here. It starts with you. And in order for us to be good for anyone, we have to allow ourselves a moment of awareness. And I like to describe this moment of awareness as imagining yourself in this empty hallway and you are coming out of one door. So you're coming out of one door and there's this empty hallway and you have to get to the door that is across. So in this hallway, there is peace, there is silence, there is what is. And sometimes we rush from one door to another so quickly that we forget that there's a hallway in between where we can pause, where we can regroup and recharge. And that is just allowing ourselves to be in the moment, to ask, what is happening right now? What is in my control? What are the things that I can focus on to bring about the change that I want to feel, that I want to see? And through the practice of this, we know that we can relieve our stress. We can reduce our stress at the moment because we know that we're going to start sweating, our heart rate is going to start beating, we're going to be having shallow breaths. But when we allow ourselves just a moment in that hallway, between thought, hallway, and action, we are able to regain some sense of calmness. Doing this over and over, because what fires together wires together. And when we do this, we are connecting our neural pathways to a new practice. This is all practice. And this is a way in which we can recondition the way our brain works. Our brain, again, has been activated and wired for survival. But there are moments and times where we feel like we are in a, fight, flight, or freeze mode, and there is no need for it. So this is when we are able to name it, to tame it, and understand that there are things, tools within us that we can use to facilitate a more calm way of enduring that moment. This practice enhances our well-being. And again, it's a practice. It's not a one and done. It's not, well, okay, when I have tough moments, I'm going to remember to give myself this hallway moment. No, this is, you try to do it as many times as you can in a minute, in 5 minutes, in an hour, in a day. You have to do it as often as you can to remember that it's a way of, it's a practice, it's a way of living. Because we all know that just like the waves in the ocean, they come and they go, and some are soft and smooth, and some are so very powerful that it will knock us down to our knees. And many of us have been knocked to our knees very often, very frequently. But there is something about getting up after being knocked down by a wave. And there's things that we learn about the next time a wave like this comes. And I think that it's safe to say that we in this past year have learned a lot. We have learned a lot about ourselves. We have learned a lot about each other. And we have learned a lot about those people, around the world that have also been affected like many of us have. So I would like to consider, getting prepared for the next waves, because these waves come like emotions. They come as events. They come as anything that could be, overwhelming for us. And again, it's about how do we manage? We can't stop them, but how do we manage? Or like I would like to say, how do we ride this wave? So in an effort to provide some guidance, of how to ride this wave, we first start with welcoming. Welcome the feelings and reactions. Allow yourself to be open to the experience, to your sensations, to your thoughts, without the urge to judge. Very, very often we go into detective mode because we're trying to solve, why are they here? How do I get rid of them? Why are they coming? The thing about it is that very few times are we the bystanders watching them come and watching them go. We often go right into working mode. But I welcome you to welcome your feelings, your emotions, your thoughts without judging. Just watch them, notice them, attend, attend to the full experience that is every moment of your life. Every moment will give you a different sense of experience, and it's up to us to put that perspective around it. So we're able to stay in the present with our full experience, being able to name it and describe what's happening in our mind, body, and soul. We then are better able to understand this relationship that we have with ourselves, improve the relationship that we have with ourselves. We also want to validate, just like we do with our clients, just like we do with our loved ones. We validate their truth, we validate their experience. And sometimes it's very difficult to come to the understanding that everything is going to be okay. But we have to be okay with our feelings, our thoughts, our beliefs, and notice those body sensations because, again, they're giving you clues. They're giving you clues into what you need, into what's happening inside the body. And lastly, don't forget to exhale. Many of us hold our breath for too long. Some of us don't breathe deeply enough. But many, many times we hold on to things that don't serve us, to thoughts, feelings, emotions that just make us more overwhelmed. It increases our anxiety, it increases our depression. So I encourage you to exhale, to let go of any resistance, anything that does not serve you, and allow your body to soften up, settle into what is in that moment. And remember that if you're under a wave, the wave will pass. You will have air. You will be able to regain and establish yourself back up. So it's not about what happens with the wave, it's how we overcome it and how we respond to it. So I know that many of you have asked about Cogni, and Cogni is one of the most wisest raccoons that I have ever met. And Cogni is going to walk us through some of the very common, it's not an extensive list, but some of the most common thought distortions that happen when we are overwhelmed by stress, overwhelmed by our to-do list. And we're going to talk about them because we want to be able to name these thought distortions or these mental traps so that we don't fall into them. Because again, some of us are going to be too familiar with them, and we want to be able to understand what's happening. And in order for us to do that, we have to give ourselves that pause in the hallway to become aware of what's what. That would lead us into the understanding of what is, where it's coming from, and maybe even the why. And it would help us with the regulation, with the reducing of stress, with the ability to regain our breath and our calmness. So one of the most common thought distortions is this all or nothing thinking. And this is when we believe that it's really all or nothing. It's a black and white issue. There's no middle ground. Many times, we see it in the way in which we look at ourselves. I'm either going to, work out every day, or I'm not going to ever work out, or maybe that's just me. Or we're going to say, I'm going to eat healthy. I'm going to have a salad every day, but oh no, that day that I have a burger, I already blew it, so might as well keep having burgers. So remember that sometimes when we are overwhelmed by stress, we get into these mental traps. All or nothing is one of the most common. Another very common one is this emotional reasoning. And this is when we place our emotions Take the way we feel to start the narrative of what could possibly be happening. So here, Cogni sent a, hey, how are you, to a friend, and they left him on red. So now, because Cogni is not feeling, so very great, probably stressed out by work or, just, challenges, then starts this emotional reasoning. No reply. Well, they must hate me. There might be something I did wrong. What did I do wrong that make me, so unlovable, or that my friend doesn't want to reply to me? And again, emotional reasoning is one of those cognitive thought distortions that happens to many, many of us. And even though it's not our original thoughts, it's conditioned thoughts that we have allowed to circulate for way too long. It affects the way we interact with ourselves, with others, and how we live our lives. Another one is this should statement. And I would say that out of all of these, my biggest mental trap is this should. Well, I should do this. I shouldn't do that. And what happens is that we just create this, this internal combination of guilt, shame, and pressure. And this is all in our, our mental trap of the shoulds. We should be doing it more, or we shouldn't be doing that. And again, remember that these are thoughts that do not serve you. You do not need them. And part of breaking the cycle is understanding when they're creeping up, when they're coming in and trying to take over your thinking. Another one is personalization. When we begin to think that things are happening or people are acting in a way, or there's situations that are out of our control, but we believe that it's because of us, that we are the cause or we are the reason why certain things are happening, and they're usually in a negative way, which leads us to the mind reading. We begin to think that we know what people are thinking. If we know someone, then we know what they're thinking, right? But very often that's not the case. We cannot put all of this pressure on ourselves with thinking that we know what other people think, or when servicing people, we have no idea what they might see as their needs. Therefore, let's not, get caught up into these mental traps, which are often also guided by a negative filter, especially when we are, again, overcome by stress, through challenges, through, this emotional roller coaster that happens all too often. When we have this negative filter, even the brightest, most beautiful day can have its downfalls because of the way in which we are seeing life. And again, sometimes we don't even know that we have these negative filters on until we're able to think or look at things from a different perspective, from a different lens. Then we're like, whoa, that wasn't even that bad. But again, we won't know until we catch these thoughts and we have an opportunity to reframe our thinking. Another one that happens often is this catastrophizing, where when we have small, small problems, but because of everything that we have going on, it can feel very overwhelming. It could feel like it's a big, big problem, and we don't even know how to solve it. I don't know if it has ever happened to you, but sometimes when I'm very stressed or under time pressure, I forget how to spell. I'll forget how to spell the simplest, most simple things. And the thing is that, and one of the things that I catch myself, is understanding that when my mental ability is so short that I can't even spell should or what or they, then maybe it's time for me to take a break. And, it's often a good reminder to take a break, go refill my water or my tea or my coffee. But it takes practice. We have to remember, allow ourselves, validate ourselves, and counteract those negative thoughts. And lastly, we have forecasting, where we believe we know what's going to happen based on if we say something, if we do something, or we just, have this interpretation of what might happen. And the way in which this is, harmful is that we often forecast in a negative lens. Well, if I say this, then this is going to happen, and I'd rather not. So sometimes, forecasting with that negative filter on, because none of these happen one by one. Sometimes they come at you all at one time. So it can start with this negative filter that then guides us to that forecasting. By forecasting negatively, we're catastrophizing. And catastrophizing what someone else is going to do might require some of the mind reading. So remember that these cognitive thought distortions are not of ours to have, are not for us to keep, because they're not healthy and could create more harm than good. And that harm begins here with these, feelings that are brought on by having these thoughts. But again, when we are able to name what they are, next time that, you might feel this happening, or you notice that it's starting, that mental talk is starting to go this way, remember, name it to tame it, because that's the only way that we're going to be able to break cycles. So in the chat, I just wonder, is this something that only happens to me, or does any of this sound familiar? Do anyone experience or have at one point experienced some of these mental traps? I'm just curious. Yeah, the should. Oh, that is a big one for me. All of them. You are not alone. You are not alone. All of them. Yep. Oh, yes, all or nothing. Especially when we're at work, I would say, yes. Forecasting. Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah. Right. And I hope it allows for some, like, some lightness, some you're not alone, and this is happening to us sometimes without us even noticing, because they have been so conditioned. We have allowed them to exist in our minds for so long, and they could probably run our lives for us if not caught. So I hope now that you are able to name them, you are able to tame them, and know, again, validate them, watch them come, validate them as they go. But remember that if it's not adding to your well-being, if it's not serving you in any positive way, let it go. Say, okay, thank you, should, but I don't need you now. And I think it will allow for some of this recovery, because we're all going to be in spots where we are not the happiest with ourselves. We are not the happiest with what we did or should have done, or what we said or didn't say. But remember that all we have is the moment, and in that moment, practicing that self-compassion, that saying, I did my best, I did what I could, and that's good enough, and truly embody that. Mhm. So in my household, we are able to acknowledge these thoughts and feelings for 5 minutes and then move on since it's already passed. That is awesome. And I love that you have incorporated your household into it, because let me tell you that our young our young people have had their lives turned upside down. Many of us, but those that are still in school, that are trying to navigate social interactions and everything through the computer, are having a hard time. So I love this validation of like, yes, we're going to feel it, we are going to deal with it, and we're going to heal from it. And we're going to do this in 5 minutes. Having a time allotted for this allows for that, understanding of, yes, this is validating. Yes, this is true, but it's also, we also have to go and move on to things. So I love it. Um, the all or nothing, yes. Struggles in the acceptance of limitations, almost, yes. Exactly. We forget that we're not superheroes. We might wear a cape and a badge, but at the end of the day, we need love too, and sometimes if it happens very often, um, if I know some of you personally, I know that sometimes you need a reminder because you yourself, it's just not something that you're going to do for yourself. So by kind of making these understandings, each one teach one type of thing, I think it allows for that balancing when we too need it and are not being mindful of it. Which brings us to, and remember that at any point in time, you need to go refill your water, coffee, tea, please go ahead and do so. You don't have to be locked into your chair. If you need to use the restroom, please, make yourself at home. Because we're going to now talk about boundaries. And we're going to talk about many boundaries, professional boundaries as well. But I really want to keep this personal connection that we have going on, because I think this is where we branch out, to every other role that we have, every other hat that we wear. It starts with these boundaries. And boundaries, forget the word boundaries, because I think it has a lot of negative connotation to it. um, most people see boundaries as something strict, as something to uphold. But I want you to think of boundaries as fluffy, light pillows. Fluffy, light pillows that you are going to put all around you. Um, happy and nervous about boundaries. Okay, we have mixed emotions, but remember, okay, delete the word boundaries from your vocabulary. We are going to create fluffy, light, cloud-like pillows all around us for our protection and the protection of others. So, they are defined as the limits and responsibilities of people with whom you interact. And that's just a formal way of saying, it's knowing how much and when to extend yourself to the people that we, share our lives with. So before we get into breaking down boundaries, I would like to know, what makes boundaries difficult to maintain for you? Because again, this is our space. This is the way we get to know one another and ourselves. What are some of the things that make it difficult to maintain these boundaries? Oh, yes. A 4-month-old. Very true. Too bad that, that little one doesn't know about boundaries. Definitely, it can be hard. I mean, I think being a parent is such a difficult, it's such a difficult full-time job. There is no breaks. You don't get vacation. There's no days off. Children's period. Yes. Feeling bad or guilty. Yes. Having other people that don't respect boundaries. Yeah. The forecasting and consideration of others' emotions. People pleasing. Yep. Our own expectations. But even Wonder Woman has to take their break too, being a people pleaser. I would agree with all of you. It is tough. It is tough to be able to please everyone. And when we are people pleasers, when we are trying to take care of our babies and our families, it's very hard to remember to take care of ourselves. Perfectionism, exactly. It's one of those habits, so difficult to say no. Hard time saying no. Yes. Oh, yeah. And you know what? I would agree. I would say that the reason why most of us have difficulties maintaining these soft and fluffy pillows around us is because saying no might cause someone's feelings to get hurt. And none of us are in the business of hurting people's feelings. Therefore, it's so difficult. The thing about it is that whose feelings get hurt when we do bend, when we do outdo ourselves? There's always someone that's going to get hurt if these fluffy pillows aren't set around us, when they're not kept in place. The hurt person might be you, it might be us. And the thing that happens when we outdo ourselves, when we cross these boundaries, is that we grow resentment. We might grow annoyance, you know, our compassion might get fatigued. We might burn out. So all of those, drops on the umbrella that we talked about at the beginning of this workshop could come back up. And when they come back up, guess who comes with them? All those mental traps, all those cognitive distortions. They all creep up. And there are so many ways that we can become harmed. And through that extent, harm others. Well, we've been managing to keep them happy and keep them pleased. There's going to be a time where we just don't have it in us. We might snap. We might say things or do things we don't mean. And this is why maintaining our fluffy pillows, our boundary pillows, is so important. So many social norms to navigate in decision making with interacting with others. Yes. Oh, that catch-22. It is a vicious cycle. That's why we want to break it down. So we know that first and foremost, when creating and maintaining these fluffy pillows around us, we have to remember a few things about human beings, right? Because we're in the business of being people that support people, that care for people. Therefore, we have to be people smart. And the way we do that is that we acknowledge, first of all, what makes it difficult. And we try to, as best as we can, to manage that harm before it happens. And it's not by bending, and it's not by giving into the breaking of our boundaries, or just getting rid of our pillows that are there to provide us comfort and cushion and safety. But remember, acknowledge what boundary or which boundaries are the most that are in trouble for you right now. Because I can tell you one thing: time. The amount of time spent on work, the amount of time we spend doing things for others might be overwhelming. And I could probably bet money that all of us here in this space have worked much harder this past year than we have ever done in the previous years, because the need has been so great. Therefore, we have had minimal rest, minimal time to sleep. Hint, hint. Some people that here need a spa day and some relaxing days for themselves to recharge and regain your superpowers. We have to remember that when anytime these boundaries are crossed, there will be harm. So if we're in the business of people, helping people, we have to help person number one. So here are a list of categories of the many different types of boundaries that we have. We have the physical boundary. Now more than ever, that's going to be key because some of us will be impacted by this pandemic differently. Some of us will continue to have that, uh, that physical phobia. There are so many things that will come up for people as we, hopefully come back to some sense of, back in the day life. So physical boundaries is going to be a key important one. And let me tell you, just name it. In the last training that I did before the pandemic was officially called, it was a year ago, and I did a presentation with over 200 people. And I was already in my mind thinking about hand sanitizer and keeping distance because I have a child at home and we can only do the best we can, right, to protect those our loved ones. So I named it at the beginning of my presentation, just like, we love to be close and share stories and shake hands. Because I was in a place where I didn't know how to feel and how to act, I named it. So I said, we are in a very weird place right now. I don't know if to shake hands or to, fist bump or whatever. So I'm just going to acknowledge everyone by nodding my head. And everybody was okay with that. If I would not have done so, I would have shaken so many hands and then what? Felt so uncomfortable, felt uncomfortable, and that uncomfort might, be characterized as something else, as rude but the thing for myself is that I named the physical boundary that I needed to feel safe. Now more than ever, we're going to have those conversations because we don't know where people are coming from in terms of how they feel safe. So naming it, hey, I know, emotions might be up and down on how close we are, or so what would make you feel most safe, and people will, hopefully this becomes one of those conversations that can be normalized so that we don't feel so awkward bringing it up. Intellectual research, respecting each other's thoughts and ideas. Many of us are, walking resource guides. We are navigators of systems. We are connectors of people. And guess what? You're called to action all the time. Why? Because we need you. The thing about it is that even as, knowledgeable and as helpful as you are, you need a break. You need some you time as well. So it's okay to say no. And we're going to, again, talk about how we do that with being people smart. Emotional openness with one another. And this is a tricky one because there might be moments where we feel so connected with people and we just might overshare. We might just feel so comfortable. The thing about it is that not everyone is the same. Some people are very expressive. They are, by nature, they're extroverts, and it's okay for them to share and to be more vocal. The thing about it is that we also have the other side of the coin where some people might not feel so comfortable sharing. We might just be introverts, and it's not it's not a bad thing to have multiple different types of people, but sometimes we have to be able to name it, like, oh, I'm a social butterfly, I like to, or say, hey, it's really hard for me to like open up and stuff, so I hope you don't take it personally. Because again, as we reintegrate into our work, into our society, into our communities, we're going to have an opportunity to develop these boundaries with clear and honest communication, because we need it. We need to. especially as we continue to be called on for the many, many different gifts that we share. And then there's material, mutual feelings about money and possessions, and, simple things like at work, if we share a desk or a cubicle, or we share, an office, and there's supplies that, we have or we buy off our own money. So little things like that, it's so important that we're able to communicate how we feel about every single one of these boundaries, as little or as big as it may be. Let's have that conversation, because it might be uncomfortable to start the conversation, but imagine just how much more uncomfortable it would be to say, you know what, I've had enough. I've done so much, and then come from a different place instead of, preventive. Let's be preventive in any harm to self or harm to others. So this is where we put our people smarts to play. I'm sure we all have heard, work smart, not hard. Well, this is how we do so in maintaining and setting up our boundaries. So first, we acknowledge that it's difficult to maintain and to, put up our fluffy pillows, because saying no might hurt someone's feelings. However, there are so many, artful ways to have this conversation while still protecting that, that feeling of being there for people, pleasing them, but not at the extent where you harm yourself or give too much of yourself that you don't have. So, and again, this is not a step-by-step thing, because it might come in different things. But first of all, we want to clarify. We want to clarify what is being asked of us to ensure that we are hearing clearly what the other person is asking. And we do so because when we just say yes, we're just like, oh, yes, I could do that. We might miscommunicate. We might put more on ourselves than was originally asked. So when we clarify and ensure ourselves that we understand what is the ask, we not only allow ourselves to get the full scope of what they need from us, but if that request is unreasonable, it allows a person to say, well, you know what, now that you say it like that, no, like that's too much. Let because you will not believe how many times people ask you things, and then when you reflect or ask clarifying questions, they're like, oh, whoa, yeah, no, that's unreasonable for me to ask. I am so sorry. What would you be willing or able to do? And again, we're gonna get to that part. So ask clarifying questions, especially when you feel that your fluffy pillow is being pushed a little bit. Say, okay, so if I hear you correctly, is this what you're asking me for? And allow for clarity and understanding. Then we're express how you feel, but remember to be honest. To thyself be honest. Can you? Will you? Do you want to? We have to, all of those, can you, will you, do you want to, are you able to? All of those have to be yes, in order for us to fulfill requests. If any one of those are no, then we have to express how we feel, convey your understanding of what is being asked of you, but also consider a person, your own needs, and say, I hear that you're asking me to to send you an email by end of day, and for you end of day means 10 o'clock p.m. Well, sadly, my bedtime is at 8:30, which it is. I love to go to sleep as early as I can. My bedtime is at 8:30, therefore I am not. We go into the setting of our limits, address what is and not possible for you. Because I go to sleep at 8:30, I am unable to meet the deadline of 10 p.m. tonight. However, we go into indicating, tell person what you are, willing and able to fulfill, moving forward. However, I do wake up early so I can have that email for you and that response for you by tomorrow, no later than 9 a.m. So again, it is not about saying no, it's about how we convey the reasons behind our no. Because many of you are leaders in your community, are leaders in your agencies, and people respect you and honor you. And just because you are a giver, you are a pleaser, doesn't mean that you don't have needs. And if you are a parent, or if you can recall, even your own caregivers, I think we never really acknowledge the needs of the people that took care of us, or, especially if they never voiced them. It was just kind of like, if we've been surrounded by givers and that's what we're accustomed to, we might never stop and reflect to think like, oh, wow, they need me time. They need their time, they need this time, or they're tired, or they're in a bad mood, because some of us never let it show. And it doesn't mean we're not feeling it, it's just we never let it show. So we want to consider how we set these boundaries and how we do it in love and in affirming ways, in which, like, are you asking me to go babysit your kid at 9 p.m.? Well, you see, I would love to. However, I am so tired that I don't think I'm able to stay up till 9 p.m. However, if you want to go out next week, I can come by around 6 p.m. and you can have a longer night out or something. Again, saying no, but remembering that you're saying no for the protection of the relationship, of yourself, and overall, people are going to feel safer coming to you because they know where you stand and where you are. And it's much comforting to be like, hey, I could come to you and ask you, and you'll tell me straight up if if you're able to or not. And I love that, because then there's trust. There's trust in that relationship, and there's authentic love, authentic connections being established. And that is what we all want. We want to be able to be the embody the example that we want our family members, our loved ones, our clients to exhibit. Because if we continue to see yes, 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 guess what? We're teaching people. Learned behavior is the most. Learned behavior, and all of you know this, learned behavior is the most powerful examples that we have. We learn by what we see, what we hear, and what we, experience. Therefore, if you, as a leader, as a person that, people look up to you, if you can lead by example, imagine just how many seeds you're going to plant. How many lives are you going to change by, putting up these loving and fluffy pillows, around you to ensure your self-survival. And then how do we do that? This is the end, towards the end of our workshop. So how do we do that? How do we remember to maintain our well-being? How do we create our own personal toolkit? Well, remember that we all need nourishment, okay? Many of us might be working from home or have been working from home, but we still miss lunch. We still miss skip meals and might not, notice because we're working. So remember, first things first, nourish yourself, have water, have plenty of rest, and always remember to maintain that safety for yourself, whether it is health or whether it is through boundaries. You have to, you're the expert in your life. Only you know what you need, and only you know what you're capable and when you have to pull back some. So remember, keep things in mind. We also want to you know, pay attention to a few things, a few factors. Our lifestyle, okay? Keeping a routine can be very, very beneficial, even if it's just here at home. Having a set time that you wake up to a time when you know you have your drink of water, coffee, or tea. When you start to eat, practice the skills that you have: boundary setting, taking care of yourself, moving your body. And remember that even though transitions are difficult right now, we have to have them. We have to have transitions from work to play to home. We cannot be always on because it's just too overwhelming. So, you know, think of, I want all of you to think of one nice thing that you're going to do for yourself after we're done with this workshop. And if you have any things you want to share, uh, please share them in the chat. I'll tell you what I'm gonna do. I just bought my daughter the Nintendo Switch, so during her lunchtime, we do the the Just Dance. We do a couple because, you know, I need to remember to move my body as well. Reminders. If you have children, you have constant reminders of a lot of things, and add one more and do me time, even if it's just a couple of minutes, because taking care of yourself is a science. So we want to be able to fully address each and every ingredient to this recipe that is taking care of you. So are we eating well? Okay, getting enough rest, going for a walk, even if it's just to take the trash out. You'll be surprised. I'll take the trash out or have that little walk maybe 2 to 3 times because it's not a long walk, but maintaining a routine of something that you do, setting boundaries, you know, so important. It takes practice. Reaching out to support. When in doubt, reach out. Because I hope one thing that you take away from today is that you're not alone. So many of us are having some of the same emotions, some of the same thoughts and wonders and concerns. We have to remember to give ourselves that moment of awareness by practicing mindfulness, allowing ourselves to take a deep breath, because we can quickly go into activation of our fight, flight, and our freeze response, and we start to hold our breath or have shallow, short breaths, which again leads us to poor gut activation and headaches. Remember to be kind to others. And I don't think that's something any of you have problems with, but to be kind to others, you have to always remember to be kind to yourself. And when we are able to maintain this stability, we are better able to reduce the amount of time that we spend suffering. You know, maintaining well-being, regaining well-being, or establishing well-being for some of us is a very difficult thing to do. But remember that there are tools for every single one of us, no matter your personality type, no matter what works for you. Just find what works for you and practice it. You know, do it consistently. And I want to remind you all that all of you play such an important role in the lives of so many people. You know, your imprint, and I love that. Thank you for sharing that term. Your imprint is being left within so many people's lives. So lead by example, recharge and reset, and make that a thing. It's okay to say no. Be gentle with yourself and practice self-compassion. If you are tired, if you are hungry, if you just need a moment of silence, please do so without judging yourself, without self-guilt. Connect with others and share what has worked for you. And you know, you will be surprised how many of us are finding and trying to find solutions that will help us just have a better day. Expect that challenges will come. Those waves will continue to come day in and day out, but set time aside to find solutions. And remember that every moment is just that, a moment, and every moment will pass. And embrace imperfection, because many of us here are perfectionists. Embrace imperfection because there is beauty in the imperfection. When we allow ourselves to be human, people see that and people connect to that. And then they embrace the imperfections within us. It can be a very difficult thing to do, but remember that mindfulness is about accepting what is, even when it's hard. Knowing you're not alone, knowing that there are people in similar situations that share similar feelings as you. And remember to send care to yourself. What can I do for myself right now? What do I need in this moment that is very difficult for me? What do I need? These very simple questions can lead us to a journey of self-nourishment and self-love that we might have forgotten or might have never had before. Let's try to limit our trauma reminders. If you know that, going on the news and having too much news makes you feel some type of way, well, limit that. Put something else that brings you joy and laughter instead. Create, again, a routine, a schedule. Focus on what you can control. Very often it's very little things, but let's focus on that. Move your body again, move your body, even if it's just here and there, because the body will retain the tension and the stress. We have to find ways to release that. Take breaks from your screen, take breaks from work, from whatever it is. And I promise you that when you take breaks from something and you come back to it fully recharged and repowered, you are going to be more efficient and your passion will be much, much, stronger. Stay connected. Stay connected with others safely, virtually, however it is that you're able. Stay connected and remember, you're not alone. You are not alone. There are many, many of us over here that are just looking for someone to relate to, someone to connect with. And with that, I want to leave you all with one of my favorite people, Dr. Maya Angelou.
There's an African American song, 19th century, which is so great. It says, when it looked like the sun wasn't gonna shine anymore.
Can we hear the? Okay. I'll make sure we can hear.
God put a rainbow in the clouds. Imagine. And I've had so many rainbows in my clouds. I had a lot of clouds, but I have had so many rainbows. And one of the things I do when I step up on a stage, when I stand up to translate, when I go to teach my classes, when I go to direct a movie, I bring everyone who has ever been kind to me with me. Black, white, Asian, Spanish-speaking, Native American, gay, straight, everybody. I say, come with me. I'm going on the stage. Come with me, I need you now. Long dead. You see? So I don't ever feel I have no help. I've had rainbows in my clouds. And the thing to do, it seems to me, is to prepare yourself so that you can be a rainbow in somebody else's cloud. Somebody who may not look like you, may not call God the same name you call God, if they call God at all. You see? And may not eat the same dishes prepared the way you do, may not dance your dance. Or speak your language. but be a blessing to somebody. That's what I think.
I could not think of any other way to close our time together than with, Dr. Maya Angelou's words, because they so resonate to me as far as all the work that you all do. Obviously, you are all rainbows and other people's clouds, but we also have to remember ourselves. And for us to continue to do what we do with the passion that we have to do it, we have to take care of ourselves. So remember, it's not selfish, it's self-love. And, in order for us to continue to be those rainbows, we have to nourish ourselves and fulfill our needs. So that is it for me. I am so very thankful for everyone's engagement, for all of your truths and your vulnerability to share the things you shared with me. And I'm so appreciative that you chose to spend your Tuesday morning with us. So thank you so much. I hope to be a rainbow in anybody else's clouds that needs one. And I am open for questions or anything, a group, any reflections, anything that we're taking away from today. Thank you so much. Yes, happy Taco Tuesday. Yes, don't forget the next session. It's going to be an amazing session with Dr. Williams. So please stay tuned, stay connected. So thank you, everyone.
So Daisy, thank you so much. If people don't have questions, we just want to share our gratitude to you for giving us the space for recalibration, for connection. We also want to reiterate our thanks to the UCLA team, to both Flor and Ruby for helping with translation and tech. A huge shout out to Keela for coordinating this wonderful event, to Kim for introducing and setting the tone. So grateful. As she mentioned in the chat, you'll see the evaluation. Please fill out the evaluation. It really helps us to guide future efforts. And you'll also see the information for registering for Dr. Shell Williams in her session that's coming up. So thank you all, and wishing you a blessed day.
Bye, everyone.